Can you see into the cup? If you can see into the cup, this is going to be very embarrassing. Hi, lovely. It's me, Rogue, your favorite seductive succubus. You know, I've just been sitting here all on my own, so I'm thinking about back when I went to an all-ghouls school, I had this incredibly toxic best friend. You know, whenever I was around her, I would just break out into this horrible rash, start vomiting uncontrollably, and, oh, actually, come to think of it, maybe she was radioactive. Come on, it's my first show, give me a break.
Leave.
Fine, whatever. I'm so thrilled that you're able to join me for the inaugural episode of a show I'm calling Features of the Night. A show where, with me as your host, we're going to do a deep dive on our favorite horror movies, exploring subtext and different themes that aren't necessarily talked about a whole lot. Tonight's feature was recommended to me by a dear old friend. You know, he actually said the main character reminded him a lot of me. I assumed it was because she's so stunning, adored by everyone, and demonic in all the right places, but no, apparently I'm manipulative, insecure, and horribly narcissistic. Anyways, tonight we'll be talking about Jennifer's Body, a 2019 horror comedy written by Diablo Cody and directed by Karin Kusama. Though considered a commercial flop for the time, mainly due to a gross mismanagement of the film's marketing campaign, more on that later, Jennifer's Body has since gone on to achieve a massive cult status, due to how it tackles more sensitive topics, let's say, that are at the forefront of our culture today. Tonight, we'll be looking at how the film uses its plot point of demonic possession as a way to explore an abusive relationship between two best friends. So, grab a blanket, your BFF, and some extra salty popcorn, because tonight we're exploring Jennifer's Body. The film's establishing shots set up a sinister atmosphere as the camera puts us in the POV of someone, or something, approaching a house in the dead of night. As we creep through the bedroom window, we get a glimpse of a teenage girl who we later learn to be Jennifer, played here by Megan Fox. She's picking at her dry skin, eating her hair, and watching an ad for something called a butt squeeze. Okay, who am I to judge? The camera pans up from the foot of the bed, showing Jennifer just lying there, creating the feeling that she is exposed and vulnerable. We then cut to a shot of an unaware Jennifer being observed from the window by an ominous hooded blonde girl. The shot lasts for only a second before cutting back to Jennifer. She turns over to look at the window only to find there's no one there. The shot lingers on Jennifer, who is staring at the night with a sad, seemingly heartbroken look in her eyes. A soft voice then proclaims, "Hell is a teenage girl," a line that writer Diablo Cody put in there to reflect the horrors of puberty and coming of age. In the next scene, the film formally introduces us to Anita Needy Lesnicki, played here by Amanda Seyfried. The name Needy was given to Seyfried's character to outline the one-sided nature of her relationship with Jennifer. We see her here, though, as a hardened inmate at a mental health correctional facility. Needy serves as our narrator for the story, recounting the events that landed her in such a place. She begins to describe how just 2 months earlier, her life was completely different. She was a simple, dorky teenage girl with a super hot, super narcissistic best friend. A best friend who she had known since she was a toddler. But the way Needy looks at Jennifer here suggests that maybe she thinks of her as more than just a friend, ooh-woo. The music also backs this up as we hear the lyrics, "You are the girl that I've been dreaming of," echoing softly in the background. This is our first look at what things are like between Jennifer and Needy, but it's not long before we learn that this friendship ain't so straightforward. Even though they're total biffs, symbolized by those super tacky gold necklaces, we find out from Needy's boyfriend Chip that Jennifer and Needy don't really have a whole lot in common anymore. Needy tends to just go along with whatever Jennifer wants to do. Case in point, Jennifer drags Needy to Melody Lane, the town's only bar, to see Low Shoulder, a new indie rock band from the city with an extra salty lead singer.
Salty. Salty means beautiful.
While the band is playing that annoyingly catchy song, we get a series of shots that emphasize Needy's adoration for Jennifer. A shot that reveals they're holding hands, followed by one of Needy turning to look at her. The camera focuses on Needy here, with Jennifer just slightly out of focus, suggesting that Jennifer does not reciprocate whatever it is Needy is feeling. After the fire scene when Needy is home alone, we are given a sequence that begins to shed a light on how truly manipulative Jennifer is. And sure, you could argue that it's because she's just been literally sacrificed to Satan, but Jennifer has shown signs of this behavior before, it's just more amplified now. After Needy lets out a blood-curdling scream, she calms down enough to ask Jennifer what happened. The camera cuts back to Jennifer where we see a menacing grin begin to creep across her face. as if she's taking joy in how scared Needy is. After Jennifer chows down on some floor chicken, because let's face it, we've all been there, she lets out a demonic growl before projectile vomiting across the room. Again, we've all been there. Seeing Needy visibly terrified by this, Jennifer's grin grows even bigger. The scene cuts between shots quickly in an effort to ramp up the intensity as Needy runs through the hallway to try and call for help. But before she can grab her phone, Jenny has her pinned against the wall in a somewhat tender embrace. The sequence concludes with Jennifer asking Needy,
"Are you scared?"
Needy nods yes. Then we get a close-up of Jennifer's lips on Needy's neck, suggesting she's getting off on the terror. The music begins to swell and we feel the anticipation of a bite coming on, but at the last second, Jennifer bolts for the front door. Because of this, it could be argued that she never wanted to hurt Needy, she's just satisfied knowing that Needy is terrified. This is pretty common in abusive relationships, unfortunately. The abuser torments the other person because they're really horribly insecure. Tearing Needy down makes Jennifer feel better about herself, and we can actually see this reflected in her physical appearance. The next day after the encounter, Jennifer is absolutely radiant. The girl is glowing, honey. But it's not too long before we see her looking visibly run down again, appearing exhausted and irritated despite snacking on a grieving linebacker. When she's asked out by Colin, the school's resident Gerard Way wannabe, she initially refuses because, she doesn't like boxing movies.
Yeah, but it's not a fucking boxing movie. Fuck it, okay.
Like a drag queen doesn't know what Rocky Horror really is. Anyway, she reconsiders when, Needy mentions that, she actually thinks Colin is, pretty cool. We then see a hint of that menacing grin creep across Jennifer's face again, implying that she sees an opportunity to assert her dominance over Needy and numb her own insecurities. Later, when Jennifer lures Colin to a secluded house that's still under construction, a psychic connection between Jennifer and Needy is established. After breaking Colin's arm, Jennifer says,
"I need you frightened."
And curiously, the scene doesn't focus on Colin, it instead cuts to Needy. Through Needy's POV, we then see a truly unnerving projection of Jennifer's previous kill. We can see Needy is growing more and more terrified, and clearly, so does Jennifer. When we cut back, we see her looking intensely at the camera as she proclaims,
"I need you hopeless."
The editing here implies that Jennifer is not speaking to Colin, who at this point, girl, she's literally ripping him apart, but actually to Needy directly. This is where I believe the movie confirms that Jennifer's power doesn't come from the boys she terrorizes because, as she mentioned earlier,
Needy, they're just boys. Morsels, we have all the power.
It comes from Needy. She needs her best friend to feel broken down and terrified. It makes her feel more confident, makes her feel more secure, and makes her feel full. Usually within these types of one-sided relationships, when the abuser feels they've gone too far, they try to reel in the victim by acting all loving and caring. That's exactly what Jennifer tries once she realizes that she may have pushed Needy away. Jumping up from under the covers looking much more vibrant after her scarefest with Colin, Jennifer tries to calm Needy down. Though she may be acting all sweet and loving and caring here, like, "Oh my god sis, I love you," we know that is bullshit because we get a reminder of her abusive tendencies. When she pulls Needy's hair over her shoulder to expose her neck, we are immediately thrown back to the earlier encounter in Needy's house. But this time, instead of bolting for the door, Jenny leans in and gives our girl Needy a little peck on the lips. Both Seyfried and Fox were nervous filming this scene for obvious reasons, because they knew that any scene with two teenage girls making out would be over-sensationalized and overhyped for marketing purposes. And, shocker, that's exactly what happened. Cody has addressed this issue on several occasions defending the scene, pointing out that, it's hot as fuck, anyone can see that, but it also represents the intensity of Jennifer and Needy's relationship. So, a real quick side note, there's a lot to the story of how this movie was marketed. It's actually kind of astounding, you have to see it to believe it. I found a really good video that does a good job at breaking what happened down, so I'll link to that down below if you're interested. Jennifer tries to downplay the atrocity she's committed by comparing it to, X-Men or some shit, but we can tell from this shot of Needy staring at Jennifer that she isn't buying it anymore. She's done. Even though Jennifer really ups her tactics, going as far to exploit Needy's sexuality.
"Come on, Needy, let me stay the night. We can play boyfriend-girlfriend like we used to."
Ending any relationship, even one as toxic as this friendship, is never an easy decision. During the dance scene, we can see this communicated in the editing. We cut between shots of Jennifer with Chip and Needy alone at the dance. The music played by the Maroon 5 wannabes in the background echoes this. Needy could be wondering if she's made the right decision. If Jennifer had left her to ponder this for maybe a bit longer, perhaps Needy would have taken her back? I mean, probably not, but maybe. Alas, we never find out, because when Jennifer realizes their friendship could be lost forever, her demonic insecurities finally take over. Needy arrives at the pool to find Jennifer, now a literal succubus, feasting on Chip. Whereas before, our girl Needy would have been trembling in fear, now she just straight up yeets herself at Jennifer in an attempt to stop her.
St. Jude, patron saint of all causes, please give me the power to crush this bitch.
Needy is no longer Jennifer's yes woman. She has freed herself from the grips of a horrible one-sided relationship, and she's not backing down. This is captured perfectly when Needy points out that, despite being able to get any guy she wanted, she chose Chip because she's horribly insecure. The cinematography tells us this is hidden nerve as the camera slowly zooms in on Jennifer as she frantically tries to deflect the comment. She can try to brush it off, but Needy lays on insult after insult, laying it on thick, honey, prompting Jennifer to finally resort to physical violence. Or rather, she almost does before being stuck by Chip. Now, with the context of the connection between the unaware girl on the bed and the hooded figure observing her, we return to the opening scene where we witness what is essentially the breakup. Jennifer tries one last time to belittle, demean, and gaslight her victim, but Needy sees things clearer than ever. The relationship is well and truly over. Signified during their ball in the air, Needy rips the Biff necklace off Jennifer before plunging the box cutter right through. Taking everything we've discussed tonight, the use of demonic possession in Jennifer's body serves as an effective medium to explore the dynamics of abusive relationships. The film does an excellent job at setting up the relationship between Jennifer and Needy. We get a good idea of who these characters are to each other, but also that something isn't quite right. Then, through solid writing, clever cinematography, a banging soundtrack, and some truly great acting, we're told a harrowing tale of an intense, chaotic, and ultimately doomed friendship. Anywho, shitty friendships aside, Jennifer's Body is a truly terrific horror movie that I would highly recommend to anyone. If you've already seen it, or maybe this video has inspired you to watch it, please let me know what you thought down in the comments. I would love to know what you think. And until next time, I'll see you in your nightmares. It's a new show. I'm still trying to get a sign-off phrase, so, we'll test a few first.